This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Good morning, friends. Okay, so we're learning the Navi Hoshea, and let us revisit Pasuk Yud in Parak Daled. The Navi says, "V'achlu v'lo yisba'u," they will eat and they will not be satisfied. Hiznu, they will be promiscuous, v'lo yifroitzu, and they will not multiply. Ki es Hashem azvu lishmar, because they forsook observing the laws of God. The Malbim points out, on the beginning of the Pasuk, which we read last week, they will eat and they won't be satisfied. Says the Malbim that in the place that once upon a time they had tzaddik kohanim who were righteous, God blessed what was in their intestines, and with the little that they ate, they were satisfied. Like Chazal say, "Oichlem kima u'misbarach b'meyav." Now that my nation sinned, they will eat and they will not be satisfied. Just want to point out something interesting on the Parsha, along the lines of this pasuk of achlu v'lo yisba'u or oichlem kima u'misbarach b'meyav. If you look in the beginning of the Parsha, which talks about the laws of Shemitah, so it says, "Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe b'Har Sinai," and Hashem started to tell Moshe Rabbeinu the laws of Shemitah, and it says, "V'yamar teleim ki savayu el haaretz asher ani nosein lachem v'shavsa haaretz Shabbos Hashem sheishanim tizra sadecha v'sheishanim tizmar karmecha v'yasafta svasa v'ashana shviyas Shabbos ani el haaretz." Yeah, so it says you work for 6 years, and the 7th year is Shemitah. But what's a little bit curious is the fact that even before it says you should work for 6 years, before anything it says you'll come into Eretz Yisrael, and it already says V'shav Saharet Shabbos Hashem. Don't you have to have first 6 regular years and then a Shemitah year? Why does it begin with V'shav Saharet Shabbos? It's not Shemitah until after 6 years. So Abarbanel says, I don't know, I guess the first year they enter Eretz Yisrael was already a Shemitah year. In other words, they immediately upon entry, they came the year of Shemitah. Then the cycle started, then 6 years, and then another Shemitah. Well, if that's the case, asks Abarbanel, why then the Torah says, you count, right? Because if you look a little further, the Psukim say, in Pasuk Yud Tes, what in the 7th year, I have a better kasha. What in the first year, right? If the first year was Shemitah, then why are we telling me that if people are going to ask, what are we going to eat? Why are people only going to ask this question in the 7th year? What about the first year? And another interesting point that the Rishonim discuss is, it says, and if you'll ask, what are you going to eat? So Hashem will make a miracle, and He's going to make the Tuah last for 3 years. So last week we spoke out, and if you don't ask the question, let's say a person actually has faith in God. Then what? He's not going to make it last for 3 years. It's only for the people who have a chesaron and bitachon that Hashem's going to make this miracle for. What about the people who wholeheartedly trust Hashem? They're not going to have anything to eat. So it's basically the apikarsim, they're going to have a triple crop, and the maminim, they're going to starve to death. And Echanami, there's, yeah.
They have that issue too.
Right. Yeah, but, and
right.
And usually fruit is not necessarily like the main staple of food, it's more the grain, right? Okay, fine. So the Sefarno says the following idea, that the bracha of Shemitah is V'nasna ha'aretz pirya v'achaltem lasayva. The real bracha of Shemitah is not a triple crop. The real bracha of Shemitah is the regular crop. Va'achaltem lasayva, oichel kima u'mizbarech v'meyav. You eat a little bit, and you're satisfied with that. Better to eat a little, better the quality, better to eat less and satisfy you than to have to eat more. Why? First of all, physically, food and the body, they don't always go together, you know? There are complications when you eat. Better to eat less and that suffice than to have to eat more. Whereas the Chassam Sofer explains that food could distract your attention from ruchnias. It clouds the mind and it makes you more a physical being. Therefore, you're better off spiritually eating less and being satiated than having to eat more. So those who are maminim, they are va'achaltem lasoiva v'shavtem levetach. V'chisoimru. But if you're going to ask the question, what am I going to eat, so you're not on that madrega, then you'll have the second level bracha. The second level bracha is the tzivisias brachasi. You're going to have a triple crop. Or as Rav Moshe Feinstein says, just in a practical way, the real bracha of Shemitah is having less food and being satisfied because you need less storehouses. Now that you have a triple crop, I think that's what you suggested last week also when we discussed this. When you have a triple crop, now you're going to have to pay money to buy.
That's more work to harvest it.
It involves more effort and more storage space. However, the real bracha of Shemitah, v'achaltem lasoiva. So the Abarbanel, to go back to the first question that we began with, that why only, what are people going to do in year one? So year one, though, most people are willing to rely on the better bracha. The better bracha is Oichel Kimo Mizbarach V'Meyav. The V'chisoimru is in the 6th year. By then already, maybe they've lowered themselves, and they may ask the question, what are we going to eat in the 7th year? So then it requires the bracha of the Tzivisias Brachasi Lachem Bashana Hashishis. Okay, so let's move on to Pasuk Yud Aleph. Zinus, promiscuity, adultery, v'yayin, and wine, v'sirosh, and new wine, yikach lev, takes away the heart. It says in the Tzudas David, in a very dramatic way, says in the Tzudas David, Zinus, tirdas haznus, the preoccupation with licentious behavior, v'shichros hayayin, and the drunkenness of wine, hayashan, old wine, v'hachadash, they take away the heart of the kohen. It clouds the seichel kilo yishar b'leilev, as if he's left without a heart. Lahavin ulaharis asam, to be able to teach the people. Rashi says znos v'yayin v'tir shehem asukamam, that they're involved in lakchus liba me'acharai. It takes away their heart away from me. New wine is intoxicates very quickly. Okay, Pasuk Yud Beis.
To have here the relationship, I looked at this between Zinus and Yayin and the Torah, Parsha Naso, to have the Sotah and the Nazir, Parshas right next to each other.
Right, very good. So Chazal say that some haraya Sotah v'kolkula, if you see wine, if you see a Sotah in her degraded state, you should realize how prone a person is to low behavior and keep away from wine. Right, there's a connection. Right. Okay, Ami, my nation, be'etza yishal, consults with wood. Umakloi, and its staff, yagidloi, speaks to it. Ki ruach zenunim hissa, a spirit of promiscuity makes it go astray. Vayiznu, and they are led astray mitachas Eloheim, from away from their gods. So what does this mean? What does it mean, my nation takes counsel from its wood? Ba'ami Yishal, says the Metzudas David, Ba'etza Yishal, Shoyal Asidas B'tzelem Ha'asam Me'etz. They seek the future from images made of wood. Umakloi, and their stick, Tzelem Ha'asam Min Amakal, an image made out of a stick, and this is just repetitive. Ruach Zanunim, says Metzudas David, the desire for znus, for avodah zarah, pulls them away from the derech of seichel, and therefore they are led astray from away from their God. In other words, what he's saying is the desire for the znus of avodah zarah. What do you mean the znus of avodah zarah? Chazal tell us that Klal Yisrael never wanted to serve avodah zarah. The only reason they served avodah zarah is to permit znus to themselves. Meaning, every human being has a certain conscience that they have to deal with, a discipline of morality, and before a person is able to indulge in lewd behavior, they need to shed their conscience. So how do they do that? They serve avodah zarah. What you do is you serve sticks and stones. Then, hey, sticks and stones are not a god. They're not looking. They don't know. Once you do that, then you could be indulged in znus. So nobody really believes in avodah zarah. It's just an excuse. It's a pretext to be able to be involved in znus. The Gemara has an interesting perush over here. Can you pass me a psachim? Is there a way to get in there? Psachim nun beis. Psachim nun beis. Well, okay. How are we doing there? Just bear with us. We apologize for the technical difficulty. We're just trying to retrieve a tome of the Babylonian Talmud. Okay. Let's see. Daf Nun Beis, Amud Aleph. The Gemara says like this. Ami be'etzai yishal umakla yagidlai kal hamekolai magidlai. In other words, like this. Sometimes people want to know, why is this rabbi so popular? He's a big Talmud Chacham? No. He's just a big mekel. Right? He's not a bigger Talmud Chacham. He's not a Talmud Chacham at all. He's a kal. But so the Gemara darshans this pasuk homiletically. Umakloi. Anyone who's mekel, yagidlai, they become their rabbi. In other words,
always, there's not 100% correlation.
Not always, but in this situation. Look, you have to have koyach de hetera. Then it's a legitimate heter. But somebody who's consistently a mekel, so the
Anybody can say no. Anybody can say yes.
Yeah, anyone could say yes, and also anyone could say no. You have to know.
Not so simple.
You have to know when, and Okay, but here this is how the Gemara is interpreting the pasuk. Makla yagid loy. Okay, says pasuk Yud Gimel. Al Roshei Haharem Yizabecho. On the tops of the mountains, they slaughter. V'al hagvois, and on the hills Yikateru, they bring incense. Tachas aloin. Under every, what's an aloin? What kind of tree? An oak tree. Velivne, he translates as a styrax tree. Ve'ela. Okay, ve'ela, and a elm tree. Ki toiv tzila, their shade is good. Al kain, therefore, tiznena b'noisechem, your daughters commit adultery, v'chaloisechem, your daughters-in-law tina afna, they are promiscuous. Well, let's see the Metzudas David here.
Why is the lashon of your daughter is zona, but your daughter-in-law does tina?
Okay, good. So let's see. We'll see in the Malbim. First, let's see the Metzudas David. Yizbechu, they slaughter Avodah Zarah. Their shade is good, and therefore it's a good place. Right, so if you ever want to know where is a good location to slaughter Avodah Zarah, try to get a nice shady tree. It's much more comfortable. Therefore, since the men go out, says Metzudas David, on the mountains to slaughter Avodah Zarah, so now the daughters and daughter-in-laws, nobody's watching them, so they take care of their business. Okay, let's see the Malva on this pasuk. First, the pasuk says they go to the tops of the mountains to slaughter, and the incense is on the hills. Why do they do the slaughtering on the tops of the mountains and the incense on the hills? Says the Malbim, Al Rashi Haram Yizabechu, Lashon Zanu Mitachas Elohim, L'Shem Zanu Mitachas Elohim, in order to go astray. Umitzayer, the Navi is depicting Shehazavuach L'Avodah Zarah, the slaughter to Avodah Zarah, Shehoisa Avodah Ikaris, that's the main Avodah. The Nasis B'Knofia was done publicly. B'Roivam, that was on the top of the mountains. But the Kitur, the burning of incense, which was not a primary avodah, and people did it privately, they did it on the hills. Everyone did it alone. Okay, so now you want to know, why does it say by the daughters Tiznena and by the daughters-in-law Tina Afna? Says the Malbim, Al Kain Tiznena B'Noisechem. Kamoisha Avoseihem Zanu, just like the parents went astray. The daughters, they would send away to the men. Right? The daughter is sent away to the man, and the daughters-in-law were in their house. No, not like today. Not like today. Today, the boy follows the girl. Most people, they're more by their in-laws, by their parents. The woman is in charge. It used to be, back in the day, the man brought the girl back to his house, and the girl went to the man's house. So the daughters were sent away to their husband's house. So the daughters-in-law were in your house. So therefore, v'habanois heim tiznena. The daughters were mezanesh as nusmara al sheshata mitachas isha. The znos implies to go astray from under your husband's control, and therefore they're considered like zaynos. But your daughters-in-law tina afna, because the kalos that are normally in your house, and therefore they allowed, and they allowed znos and arayas publicly. So this is not considered znos. Only niyuf, which includes the niyuf of a pnuya. Let's see what he's trying to say. So the daughters were sent to their husbands, so therefore what? The daughters are mezaneh. The daughters are mezaneh because they're leaving, they're going out from under their husband's auspices. That's like znos. But your daughters-in-law, that's not znos, that's just low behavior. Why? In other words, your daughters,
somebody else's daughter-in-law, and vice versa.
Your daughters are yours, so what they do is znos. Your daughters-in-law are on their own terms, and it's not considered. It's not considered znos.
Your daughter-in-law, she's somebody's daughter. You're a Mechut's daughter.
Okay, Pasuk Yudal. Loi efgoid al benoi sechem. I will not visit punishment on your daughters, kisas nena. Vial kaloi sechem kisina afna. I'm not going to punish your daughters if they're mezaneh. I'm not going to punish your daughters-in-law that they're of low behavior. Ki heim im hazaynos yifaredu. Because they, with their zaynos, they separate. They separate with their zaynos, v'im hakadeshos, and with their harlots, yizabechu. They slaughter. V'am lo yavin, and the nation that doesn't understand the yilavet will stumble. So here we have something very interesting. Hashem is saying, I'm not going to punish your daughters and your daughters-in-law. Here we have, they're being mezaneh, they're involved in niyuf, in znos, and Hashem saying, I'm not going to punish them. It sounds like the reason Hashem's not going to punish them, it's your fault. It's the men's fault. It's not their own fault. Look in the Mitzvahs David. It says in Mitzvahs David, Pasuk Yudal, Loi efgoid. Yeah, why? Loi eskar al b'nei sechem. I will not mention mention to your daughters, Asher tiznena l'sham lehem gemol, v'chein al kol sechem, perish, ki hein loim dois mei avien. They learn their behavior from their fathers. Ki heim hol yelchom azaynos. Where do you think the men are hanging out with? The men are out with the zaynos. V'yifardu min ha'nashim l'syachid imam. The men are separating from the other men to miyachid with zaynos. And ki heim, the men are being mefared. They're separating with the zaynos. And they're going out to offer karbanos with the harlots, with the kadeshos. The am lo yavin yilavet, meaning Ratzalim v'hol v'heim am asher lo yavin. Since they are a nation that doesn't understand, therefore they will stumble. In other words, God is saying, I'm not going to punish your daughters. It is not them to blame. They learn the behavior from the men who go off and commit adultery with other women. Says Ibn Ezra, Yadalid, Hatam ein l'tmayim abanus tiznena. Don't wonder that the girls are mezaneh. Ki heim ba'aloseyem, ki heim ba'alosem l'moshe harim lahaktir. Because when they go up to the tops of the mountains to offer karbanos, They eat and drink with Zainos. What do you think they do after that?
But the women aren't responsible for their actions after they're 12 years old? Why not?
God says, I'm not visiting.
Example, I understand.
God said, I'm not visiting punishment on them. It's your fault. I can visit punishment on you.
So you say the same thing about the sons? The sons learn from their fathers too. Why are only the fathers responsible for the daughters? Not for the sons. The sons go on and consort with harlots.
Let's see the Malbim. Malbim says, Va'ani loy efgoid al benoisechem ki siznena ki ein ha'avain taloi b'habanos rak b'aveseyem. That's where they learned it from. Now, the Malbim points out, it's well known that the Ovdei Avodah Zarah had designated harlots because that was part of the worship of Avodah Zarah. It was considered kadosh. The way of worshiping the Avodah Zarah was by having these illicit relations.
That's what attracted them to Avodah Zarah in the first place. Because in order to justify doing this, it's part of.
So this is what it says. Ve'alzeh siyem. That's why it concludes. Shalachin am lo yaven yilavet. Therefore, they will be smitten because they're a nation that doesn't understand. Pasuk Tezvav. Im zoyna ata Yisrael. If you, Israel, have turned away, al yesham Yehuda. Do not. Okay, 1 second. Excuse me. We have to go back to Rashi. Rashi understands this Gemara differently. Rashi understands this Gemara based on the Gemara in Sotah and Daf Mem Zayin. Rashi says in Pasuk Yudaled, I will not visit punishment on your daughters, meaning Rashi learns this is going on the Sotah waters. And that is, if a man's wife is unfaithful and she secludes with another man and he suspects her of adultery, so then you bring her to the Mikdash and you make her drink the Sotah waters, and if she was guilty, she would die a gruesome death. However, if the man had also been unfaithful to her, then the waters are ineffective. So the pasuk is saying, I will not punish your daughters for what they did. Why? Because you're also unfaithful. Says Rashi, Oid, lai efgoid al b'noisecha, I won't punish your daughters. Oid, anymore, levadkam b'mayim hamorim, to search them and to check them with the cursed waters. Kisha tiznena. Lama, why? Ki ba'aleim im zoinos yiparedu. V'chasher ein ha'ish menuka me'avain, when the man is not clean from sin, ein hamayim voidkim es ishtoi, then the waters do not check the woman. Okay. Weiter. Im zoina ato Yisrael. Israel, if you have turned astray, al yasham Yehuda, do not find guilt with Yehuda. V'al tavoyu ha-Gilgal. Don't come to Gilgal. V'al ta'alu beis oven. Do not go up to beis oven. V'al tishavu, and do not swear Chai Hashem, by the life of God. What does this mean? What does this mean? Yeah. Right. No, he's married to her. Yeah, but still, if a man has relations, he's still being unfaithful to her. So the Sotah waters don't work if the man had relations with another woman also. Okay, so what does it mean? Im zoyna ata Yisrael al yesham Yehuda. What does this mean? Let's see the Metzudas David. Im zoyna. Im Yisrael zanu achrei avodas kochavim. If Yisrael, meaning the 10 tribes, worship Avodah Zarah, ein bazeh ashma al Yehuda. This is not a guilt with Yehuda. Im shal yidei shanilchamu imayim nimnu lavei lebeis hamikdash. Through their war, they refrained from coming to the Beis Hamikdash, which was in Malchus Yehuda. Mikamakom lahidicham achar havodas kochavim. They did not make them stray after Avodah Zarah. In other words, just because the 10 tribes are serving Avodah Zarah, do not hold Yehuda guilty. Let's see Rashi. Rashi says, Im Zoyna Ata Yisrael. Just because the 10 tribes have strayed after Avodah Zarah, Lo Yalamdu B'nei Yehuda Darkam. Let not Yehuda learn from them. Meaning, if the Navi is warning the tribe of Yehuda, just because the 10 tribes have strayed after idolatry, you, Yehuda, do not stray after them. Do not follow their lead. Lashon Acher, Im Zoyna Ata Yisrael, Al Yeshem Yehuda. Im Zoyna Yisrael, Ein B'nei Yehuda Chayavim Bekach. Another pshat is, not that we're warning the B'nai Yehuda not to join them, we're stating, the B'nai Yehuda, you're still innocent. Ve'eni mechayvam, I will not hold you accountable. Like it said in Perek Aleph, that Hashem will have rachmanas on the Beis Yehuda. Now it's saying, V'al tavoyu ha-Gilgal, do not come to Gilgal. Meaning, do not, Gilgal and Beisel were in the kingdom of the 10 tribes. This is where Yeravam ben Nevat set up his temple in Beisel. That's when it says here, Beis Oven. Beis Oven is a reference, the Radak says, to Beisel. Radak says, Hu Beisel shahaya sham echad min ha'agalim. That's where one of the calves of Yeravam was. Why are we calling it Beis Oven? It's like a disparaging name. Legiroin, lechana shmai legnai. It's called Beis Oven. Yaakov called it Beisel. So we're saying, don't go to Gilgal, don't go to Beis Oven, and don't swear in God's name. Rashi points out, Yal tishavu imahem, don't swear with them, with these Ovdei Avodah Zarah. They would swear by the life of Hashem. Why? Rashi points out that when they would swear falsely, they would swear in the name of God, and when they would swear truthfully, they would swear in the name of their Avodah Zarah. So the Navi is saying, don't join them to swear in the name of God, because when they would swear in the name of God, they would swear falsely.
That's really sinking very low. But you only swear truthfully to Avodah Zarah.
That's what the 10 tribes had
So they had more
fallen
fear
to.
about swearing in front of Avodah Zarah than they did in front of a Kodesh Baruch. Wow.
If you look in the first paragraph,
Mm-hmm.
some of the people who were kings, Uziyahu was a medium guy.
Mm-hmm.
Hizkiyahu was a tzaddik. Achaz was a Russia. And Yosam, I don't remember what he was, but it seems that the Yeravam, the people who followed Yeravam ben Nevat, were basically all evil.
Right.
Some of them a little more evil than the others, but basically they were all evil because they all followed Yeravam.
Mm-hmm.
Those who were the kings of Yehuda, some were
More, right.
some were not good. And if you go through the names of the different kings, this is what they were. Dochos was there.
Right.
Menashe.
So that's what it's saying, exactly.
So
So it's warning the Yehuda, don't follow the lead of the Yisrael, right?
But some did.
Some
Shevet Levi wasn't involved. I mean, you only took got the 10 and the 1.
Levim were dispersed, among all of...
Some of the Levium came south. In other words, once when Yeravam had
broke off.
so some of the people who were with the Levium or Kohanim would come south. And they weren't supposed to, but they did. And but those who stayed up in the north, that's why the northern tribes were not.
You always had Arei Leviim, where across Eretz Yisrael, right? But you're saying some of them came back down. Look in the Malbim on this pasuk. The Malbim says that this pasuk is giving you more of a backdrop of the story. Im Zoyna Kfar Hispar L'mayla, we already explained above. Shebe'esh Hischel Hoshea L'nevuais B'mei Yeravam ben Yoyash. When Hoshea began his prophecy in the time of Yeravam ben Yoyash, Haya Az Malchus Yudah Tachas Yad Malchus Yisrael. The Malchei Yehuda were under the dominion of the Malchei Yisrael until the 24th year of Uziyahu HaMelech. And Yehuda was under the dominion of Malchus Ephraim. And they used to go to the Arei Yisrael. And the Bnei Yehuda were serving God at that time. Al Kain Hanavi Mazeres Yehuda Shelo Yavoyu Ba'arei Yisrael Shesham Ha'agalim Ba'avodas Necher Ba'al Yomdu Ma'aseyim. So the Malbim told us in the beginning, we learned this quite a while ago, because if you look in the beginning of the story, it says, Dvar Hashem Asher Haya El Hoshea V'mei Uzziah Yosem Achaz Malchei Yehuda Uv'mei Yeravim En Yoash Melech Yisrael. So Malbim says that in the backdrop of the story where the Malchei Yehuda were subjugated to the Malchei Yisrael, and it was under the umbrella of the Malchei Yisrael, and it lasted until 24 years into the Malchus of Uzziah, which is the 27th year of Yeravim and Yoash. Uzziah was Nischazik, and then he sort of broke away. And that's why the Malbim says the Navi Hoshea begins by telling you that it was in the time of Yeravam. Normally, by Nevuah, it only says what year it is for the Malchei Yehuda. Why here in the Navi Hoshea does it tell you that it was the times of the Malchei Yisrael as well?
There were two kings.
The answer is because it was specifically in this time that we were subjugated to the Malchei Yisrael. And that's why we're warning the people, don't follow the lead of the Malchei Yisrael. And the Malbim interprets that since the Malchei Yisrael have strayed away, you have to make sure that Yehuda doesn't follow the lead. They shouldn't go to Gilgal, they shouldn't go to Beisel, because in these two places they were involved in Avodah Zarah. Like in the Malbim quotes a pasuk in Amos, Bayu Beisel upashu hagilgal harba l'pshaya. And these were like big fortresses of Avodah Zarah. In Gilgal and in Beisel, they would swear in the Avodah Zarah of Shomrom. Okay. So we'll do one more pasuk. Ki kefara soirera, like a wayward cow. Sarar Yisrael. Yisrael has gone astray. Ata, now, Yirem Hashem. God will pasture them and care for them. Ki cheves v'amerchav, like a sheep at the range. It says in Mitzvah David, Kefar Sarera, Kamaya Paroi Chelas Ala Avos, a cow that eats from its trough, Hine Meroiv Kal, when it gets fat and so satisfied, he Saireres Umayredes, begins to rebel, and does not want to pull the yoke anymore. So you can't spoil your kids, you don't want to spoil your cow. So Klal Yisrael rebelled against Hashem, Meroiv Kal, and from so much hashpah. Therefore, Ata, Hashem says, I will care for them like a sheep who pastures in a very expansive place. Meaning, Hashem says, I'm going to have to limit their beneficence. I think most people think, I would be able to serve Hashem so much more if I had more money, resources, etc., etc. And here what it's saying is that just the opposite. What caused Klal Yisrael to go astray was Meroiv Koil, too much. Rashi says, Ketura de ispatim, like a fattened cow. Ubad, that rebels, Kain Sar Yisrael Meroiv Achilashtia. Now Hashem says, Maris Mitzum Semes, I'm going to give them a more limited pasturing that pastures in an expanse, but not like a fattened cow that sits on its trough. Okay, Rabbi, so let's hold it over here. Have a terrifically amazing rest of the day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.